Welcome back to your daily pre-market brief for Friday, June 26th. Last trading session recap. Wall Street drifted to a mixed close on Thursday as massive demand for artificial intelligence infrastructure collided with rising consumer costs. Micron Technology surged pre-market after posting a massive earnings beat driven by data center memory demand, which temporarily stabilized the technology sector. However, Apple stock dropped sharply after the company announced price hikes across its product lines due to those very same rising component costs, which dragged the broader market down. On the macro front, oil prices tumbled to their lowest levels since the US-Iran conflict began, as expectations of normalizing tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz eased inflation fears and provided a boost to cyclical sectors. The indices, commodities, and general market mood. The S&P 500 closed flat with a 0.0% change at 7,357. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 0.1% to close at 51,921. The Nasdaq Composite fell 0.5% to close at 25,359. In the commodity markets, gold was up 1.0% to close at 4,031. Brent crude gained 2.4% to close at 76. Bitcoin dropped 1.1% to close at 59,217. Looking at market volatility, the 10-year Treasury Yield fell 0.2% to close at 4.39%, while the VIX rose 1.4% to close at 18.89. These metrics reflect a market caught in a tug-of-war between cooling energy inflation and stretched technology valuations. While falling yields and lower oil prices typically support risk assets, the slight bump in the VIX indicates investors are hedging their bets as they rotate out of mega-cap tech into more cyclical areas of the economy. Top 5 gainers and losers, filtering out the penny stocks trading under $5. Top 5% gainers. Ticker MEI surged 38% to close at 18.0 after Methode Electronics crushed quarterly estimates and reported massive contract recoveries. Ticker GRPN spiked 25% to close at 22.9 as Groupon announced a strong earnings beat and raised its full-year guidance following a major corporate restructuring. Ticker SNDK jumped 22% to close at 2,335.0 in a massive sympathy rally alongside Micron as investors piled back into memory chip makers. Ticker BNED gained 20% to close at 13.4 after Barnes & Noble Education surprised Wall Street with a profitable quarter and initiated a new cash dividend program. Ticker TECH soared 20% to close at 70.7 after Merck announced a definitive agreement to acquire Bio-Techne in an all-cash buyout deal. Top 5% losers. Ticker ICCM plunged 25% to close at 7.0 as IceCure Medical gave back recent gains following a recent private placement offering. Ticker SPRY tanked 24% to close at 8.0 after ARS Pharmaceuticals disclosed its needle-free epinephrine nasal spray failed to secure expanded commercial insurance coverage. Ticker TC dropped 19% to close at 7.0 due to broader weakness in the consumer discretionary sector. Ticker GLS fell 15% to close at 18.3 after Greenwich Life Sciences experienced heavy institutional selling pressure. Ticker ALOY declined 15% to close at 14.3 as Reloys missed quarterly revenue targets due to lower base metal pricing. Top 5 institutional whale trades. Ticker XBI, 153 strike put expiring in one day with a volume of 7,420 against an open interest of 1 for a ratio of 7,420 times. Ticker BHP, 30 strike call expiring in 575 days with a volume of 4,600 against an open interest of 1 for a ratio of 4,600 times. Ticker TLT, 83.5 strike put expiring in 13 days with a volume of 3,650 against an open interest of 1 for a ratio of 3,650 times. Ticker MU, 150 strike put expiring in 7 days, with a volume of 6,014 against an open interest of 2 for a ratio of 3,007 times. Ticker RIO, 57.5 strike call, expiring in 85 days with a volume of 2,831 against an open interest of 1 for a ratio of 2,831 times. These massive options flows indicate where large institutions are aggressively positioning their capital ahead of market moves. The scanner specifically flags daily volume that massively exceeds existing open interest to filter out retail noise and expose immediate institutional urgency. When you see ratios this extreme, it signals that deep-pocketed whales are entering brand new positions with heavy conviction rather than just trading existing contracts. Next trading session preview. Tomorrow morning, the market will digest a fresh batch of economic data with the release of the preliminary US wholesale inventories report and the final University of Michigan consumer sentiment reading for June. Investors will pass the consumer sentiment data closely to gauge how everyday Americans are feeling about their finances in the wake of easing oil prices and sticky core inflation. A strong consumer reading could reinforce the narrative of a resilient economy, while any unexpected weakness might increase bets on future rate cuts. With the recent volatility in technology and energy sectors, these data points could drive early morning price action as traders adjust their portfolios ahead of the weekend. Next session, earnings schedule. Before the opening bell, Apogee Enterprises will report their quarterly earnings. Wall Street will be watching their margins and forward guidance closely to assess the health of the commercial, construction, and architectural glass sectors. With a relatively clear corporate earnings calendar, investors will focus primarily on the morning macro data drops to determine the market's directional bias. That covers your market brief for today. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's pre-market briefing. Trade safe, manage your risk, and I'll see you in the next one.